What a night for the Eagles at Lambeau Field. A hard-fought, come-from-behind 34-27 win over the Packers. The entire region would have been angry about a 1-3 start. Now everyone in this tri-state area can relax and enjoy the weekend. Welcome to this Victory Friday edition of Quick Slants presented by Nissan. I'm Barrett Brooks.
And I'm Ray Didinger. Last night, the Eagles became just the third team since 2009 to go into Lambeau Field, put up 34 points, and walk away with a win. Barrett, I don't often use this term, but that was an offensive masterpiece.
Absolutely. The Packers hadn't allowed more than 16 points in any of their first three games, and the Eagles went in and lit them up. The Eagles didn't settle for a field goal. They scored 5 touchdowns and were perfect in the red zone. They ran the ball with authority, and the Packers couldn't stop it. And they kept the quarterback clean. Carson Wentz was not sacked. A big reason the Birds had 0 turnovers. Today, Doug Peterson asked if the Eagles found an offensive identity last night.
I believe it's a little bit of a recipe for our offense. Not having Deshaun, out there to have that deeper threat down the field. I mean, you kind of rely on the run game a little bit, but even with Deshaun, I think that's how we can play, and utilize that run game. It does open up some things for us, in the play action game, and last night was kind of an indication of that.
Ray, do you think the Eagles found their offensive identity last night?
Well, Doug used the term recipe.
Recipe.
I kind of like that recipe. I think I'd like to go back to that recipe yet again.
Absolutely.
I think that it was real smart coaching on his part because you looked at Green Bay and you mentioned the stat that they hadn't allowed hardly any points all year. But the one real weakness on their team was the run defense. I mean, they play pretty much nickel coverage all the time. Teams were averaging 5 yards a carry against them. The smart way to attack them, especially in a short week when you didn't have a whole lot of time to prepare, was just be basic. Yep. Just go right at them. And the thing is,
you said that last night, though.
Well, we both said that, and we all said that, and Seth agreed too. I mean, that was the way to go right at them. And I think that last year this team fell way off in terms of its running game. But the fact is they didn't have the backs to do it. Well, now you do. I mean, Jordan Howard's addition was a big one. You got Corey Clement back. Miles Sanders was a second-round draft pick. Now you have the backs to play behind that line.
Absolutely.
And I think you look at the distribution last night. The running backs had 27 carries. They averaged over 6 yards per attempt. Now, to me, that's a recipe for winning. Now, are they going to go to that every week? Because every opponent's going to be different. Not every opponent will have the same weaknesses against the run that the Packers have. But I think something close to a 50-50 balance really is the formula for success, not just for this team, but for almost any team in the NFL.
No question. And also, with D-Jax not being in uniform and not being able to play, I really think that because he's not there, they can't take that edge defender out of the box. So since, you have to run the rock, and then it opens up the pass. And as you saw, Alshon was out there, was able to open things up a little bit, got into Zach Ertz a lot, which helped the run game because now you can only keep 6 to 7 guys in a box, and they just pounding it. We need to, take that every time we go into a game because it's simple. You talked about it in the show last night. Simplicity. Since they only had a short week of practice, they played on Thursday, so they only had 2 days really to prepare for them. For the Packers. So they had to simplify everything, and I think them simplifying everything really put these guys in a great position to go out there and just execute. A couple of plays, run those plays to perfection, and Doug said it today. Doug said, look, we just run out there, and I found myself calling the same play over again, and we watched during that game. They called the same play 3 times in a row, a run play 3 times in a row, and Green Bay couldn't stop it. And that's the worst thing you can do to a defense is to run on them, and they can't stop it because now they feel helpless. Now you can't stop the run. You can't stop anything else.
Yeah, it was interesting. I think 27 rushing attempts for the running backs was exactly the same number of passes that Carson Wentz attempted, 27.
Wow.
And do you realize they ran for more yards than they passed for? They had 27 rushes by the backs for 163 yards. Wentz threw 27 passes for 160 yards. So they actually ran for more yards than they threw for. So that's pretty good.
My ears.
I'm sure it is. But Jordan Howard was one of the surprise stars of last night's win. 115 total yards and 3 touchdowns, including a 20-yard receiving touchdown on a really pretty wheel route. Now, that was the first 3-touchdown game by an Eagle since Corey Clement against the Denver Broncos in 2017. And before that, you have to go all the way back to Riley Cooper in Nick Foles' 7-touchdown game in 2013. Now, after that performance, Howard went gun on one with Derek Gunn.
Coming into this game, you were averaging only 8 touches a game. You had 15 tonight. Look at the numbers you put up, almost 6 yards of crack. Would you consider yourself like a rhythm running back?
I feel like I just try to take advantage of all my opportunities I get. I don't know how many opportunities I'm going to get, so just try to come out and make the most of them. But it definitely feels good to get in the rhythm. They trusted in the run game tonight, me and Miles. Sproles, he was ready too for his opportunity, but the O-line did a great job for us tonight.
Man, how big were some of those holes you guys were running through tonight?
Man, they were huge. You probably could have ran through them.
No, I'm too old for that.
Nah, he might have did it.
No, my hamstring's gone. I'm telling you the truth. I can't do it. How big was this for morale? I mean, this team was down, 2 games down. You come into a place that's very difficult to play in. You played here a number of times, so you know what it's like. How huge was this for team morale?
This is a great win for us, but we were already pretty confident. We knew, even though we lost the last 2 games against all the circumstances we were up against, nobody's going to feel sorry for us, but backs were basically against the wall, so we just came out fighting. And yeah, it's definitely tough to win here. This is actually my first time winning here.
The effectiveness of the running game, how much did that open up the passing game? You guys didn't have big numbers in the passing, but you moved the sticks when you had to. You made the necessary third down catches when you had to.
It definitely helped us, but just past this, they've been ready for their opportunities when the numbers called, and it definitely helped kill 12 off the field a little bit more.
If you had an option in the play calling, how many times did you carry the ball a game? 15, 20, 25? How many?
Just as many as the team needs.
Yeah, come on now. Every back wants the ball. Come on now.
Whatever the team needs.
Whatever the team needs?
Yeah, whatever the team
That's
needs.
it? All right. He's well said. Congratulations, man. Appreciate it.
Well, I know that's all music to your ears, Barrett, but here is a look at how the Eagles' top 2 running backs split the carries last night. Jordan Howard had 15, Miles Sanders had 11, and both had great success. Howard averaged 5.8 yards per carry, Sanders averaged 6.5 yards per carry. Barrett, this is kind of a silly question, but do you like the way the running backs were used last night?
Oh my goodness, if that happens, I've been on a long time, because they use the backs the way they're supposed to use, and I say they use Howard first. He's like that hammer that pounds and meads up the defense, and then you sprinkle to Sanders to get in there and dice through it. The big thing, they ran in between the tackles. They line up in I formation. Carson was under center, and they ran in between the tackles. That's what you want to do. They weren't disguising anything. They weren't trying to hide it. They simply put it on that Packers defense. And they weren't trying to go out there and misdirection. They ran in between the tackles. And when you can do that with Howard in, and then once Howard got going, Sanders looked at his game plan and looked at that. He's running in between the tackles. He's getting the needed yards. He's taking what the defense is giving him. He started running the same way. So once he saw how Howard did it, the young guy turned around and started doing the same thing. He learned from what Howard was doing, and that's what they needed to do in the beginning. They were starting Howard. They were starting Sanders. He really didn't know what it is to be an NFL running back. Why not put a guy in that knows what it is to be an NFL running back? You put Howard in there. He went in there, turned things up, pounded that defense. O-line got all lathered up, and then Sanders went in and finished them off. That's the perfect way to go out there and beat a defense. When you're running a rock and they can't stop you, it humiliates them.
Yeah, I agree. I thought the utilization was just about perfect. And Miles Sanders, I thought last night, don't overlook that kickoff return that he had. I mean, that was a big play in this game. I mean, the Packers are up 10-0. Looks like they're kind of in control of the game. The Eagles really kind of need something to get them going, and Miles Sanders gets the big kick return, gets some great field position, and sets him up to take it down for that first touchdown, and really gets him back in the game. And I think it jump-started the team, but I also think it jump-started Miles Sanders. I mean, from that point on, he looked like he was running with a lot more confidence and a lot more authority. And we all know what happened with him in the Lions game, and he was really hurting emotionally after that game. But I think this game goes a long way towards getting him back on schedule.
Absolutely. But a guy that really liked it also was Carson Wentz. And he only threw for 160 yards last week, but he made them count, throwing for 3 touchdowns, and he was one of the league's best at finding his receivers in the red zone. It was the 11th game that this 3 passing TDs since the beginning of the 2017 season. Only Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, and Tom Brady were more. Wentz has missed 8 games during that span. Ray, what stood out to you most with Wentz's performance last night?
No turnovers and no sacks. Because you look at the defense he was going up against, that Green Bay defense, they came into this game, they led the league in sacks, and they led the league in takeaways. And Carson Wentz didn't do either. He didn't take a sack, he only got 2 hits. and he didn't turn the ball over. And I think that was really big. And the other part of it was, I thought that he showed a great understanding at the line of scrimmage in terms of his pre-snap reads. Because one of the things we talked about before the game was how this Green Bay defense is very multiple, and Mike Patton keeps changing his looks, and he disguises his coverages, and he disguises his pressure packages. And Carson Wentz, that puts a lot of pressure on the quarterback to come up the line of scrimmage and set everybody and make sure everything's in place. And I thought Wentz did a really good job of commanding that, figuring out exactly what he was looking at, making the right calls, making the adjustments, and they were necessary. And then when he had to make the throws, he made those too.
Absolutely. He broke down that defense, understood what they were going to try to do against them, and he broke it down, man. I really enjoyed watching him go out there and execute that offense. But when you can run the ball, it helps him out even more.
He was in charge.
Absolutely. Well, the Eagles had 2 more cornerbacks go down with injuries last night, and Devontae Adams was lighting them up even before those guys went down. It's time for Howie Roseman to make that big move and trade for Jaguar star Jalen Ramsey. Quick Slants is coming back in just a moment.
Presented by Philadelphia Gas Works.
Welcome back to Quick Slants. The Eagles' win in Green Bay was huge when you look at the big picture in the NFC. The Cowboys and Rams both have a chance to go 4-0 on Sunday. The Eagles kept the Packers from getting to 4-0 and will win head-to-head tiebreaker with the Green Bay Packers. Ray, how important was the Eagles to stay in the shouting distance with the top teams in the NFC?
That was really big because if they had fallen to 1-3, look, some people would have said it would have ended the season.
Right.
No, that's an overreaction.
Exactly.
But it really would have put them in a hole because when you take that 1-3 and then you project it down the road and you look at the schedule they have coming up, look, the Jets should be a winnable game for sure.
Right.
But after that, you got 3 straight road games at Minnesota, at Dallas, and then at Buffalo. Now they're a combined 8-1 right now. So that's a really tough stretch. If you were 1-3 and then you get to that, and then you're really going to be playing uphill. So I think from a psychological standpoint, it was important for this team to just kind of get its bearings again and to win this tough game on the road. But it now sets them up to where that stretch of away games now, they've got a big win on the road under their belt, and now I think they can go to those games with a lot more confidence.
No question. The 2 teams they lost was in the NFC with Atlanta and Detroit, but didn't help out a lot. But them going in and beating a hot team like the Green Bay Packers really put them in a position that they're not out of it. They're still in the driver's seat. Still need to keep riding, man.
And the tiebreaker with head-to-head Green Bay is big, real big.
Definitely. All right, Quick Slants will be back in 90 seconds.
Segment with Sunday Night 7.
Welcome back to Quick Slants. Barrett Brooks and Ray Didinger here today with some positive news on the status of quarterback Avonte Maddox, who was wheeled off on the field on a stretcher, taking a scary helmet-to-helmet hit in the 4th quarter. The Eagles said that Maddox was diagnosed with a concussion and neck injury at the hospital in Green Bay last night. He had feeling in his arms and legs and flew back to Philadelphia with the team. We'll get another update on his status next week when the Eagles begin preparation with the Jets. The Eagles had some serious injury issues at quarterback. Sidney Jones also left the game last night with a hamstring injury, while Jalen Mills, Ronald Darby, and Trayvon LeBron are still out with multiple week injuries. The Eagles did bring back veteran quarterback Orlando Scanders, who was with the team in the preseason. Ray, is it time for Howie Rose to make a call to Jacksonville and see what would it take to get Jalen Ramsey from the Jaguars?
I remember doing a show with you this summer when one of the things that we talked about was, boy, look at all the cornerbacks that this team has. Look at the depth they have at that position.
We thought we had a plethora.
And at that time we did. Not so much now. And to get to your question about the Jalen Ramsey thing, would I be in on that discussion if I was Howie Roseman? You bet I would.
No question.
Because, well, for a couple of reasons. Number one, you obviously have a serious need there. But the other part of it is that Jalen Ramsey is that good. He's, in my view, Barrett, I don't know exactly where you come down on this, but in my view, he's the best cornerback playing in the NFL.
I would say the same thing.
I really think he is. I think Patrick Peterson's a really good player. I think Stephon Gilmore's a really good player. But this guy is as close as you're going to come in today's NFL to that term, a shutdown corner. That's what this guy is. He's got the size, he's got the speed, he's got the confidence, he's got the attitude, and he's just got everything you're looking for. And I think he can play really in any system. He's best in a press man-to-man coverage, but he can play just about anywhere. Now, he made it very clear he wants to get out of Jacksonville, and a lot of teams are lining up to get in the conversation. If I were the Eagles, yes, I would be. I know there's some issues with him. I know he's a big-time trash talker. I know he's a guy who's seen as a me-first guy. I know he's a guy who wants a big contract. He showed up at training camp this year riding in a truck full of sacks of money.
Truck,
So I know all of that stuff about him. And in some situations, that could be a problem. But it all comes back, in my view, to the strength of the culture in your locker room. And I think the Eagles have one of the best locker rooms in the league right now. And they clearly are a team that's in position to make a run and win. And that's what he wants as much as anything. Look, yeah, he wants the money. Yeah, he wants the recognition. But he wants to go somewhere where he has a chance to win. And a 3 because he's a known quantity. He's a guy that's going to come in and play like a high 1 because that's what he is. And the other part of it is the contract. He's going to want a new contract at the end of the year. How's that going to work against your salary cap? I trust Howie to be able to work out all those cap issues. He's done it up to this point. What you really want to talk about is how good a player is this and how does he fit into your system? And to me, he solves both of those problems.
No question. You're looking about the best DB in the league, and no matter what, if you give him 2 1s, are you going to find a player the caliber of Jalen Ramsey in the first round this year or next year? I don't think so. And we're talking about a guy that could virtually lock up 1/3 of your field. Now, they say, well, will he fit in the system that Schwartz is running? Well, that's what Schwartz is running now. He's no longer talking about, all right, just rushing forward and not blitzing. He has the blitz because the front four, they're not getting there. So he has to generate some type of pressure. So if you watched last night, it was a bunch of guys playing closer to the receiver, closer to the line of scrimmage, being more aggressive. Now, it didn't work sometimes, but still, these guys are out there fighting. And if you put Jalen Ramsey in this mix, not only does it make those other guys work a lot harder and become better players, but it also puts you in a position that you don't have to worry about what's going on that side and maybe help a guy on the other side. It'd be truly something that they need to do to bring him in to probably make a real boost at that defense becoming not just a good defense, but a great defense. He's that type of player, man.
Yeah.
I really think so.
Yeah, I understand, guys, teams are reluctant to trade number 1s. They're reluctant to trade any draft picks. They treat them like they're high currency.
Yes.
But the fact of the matter is you're talking about a player here who you bring him in, and he's going to play like a number 1 because that's what he is.
Exactly.
And so when you're in a position the Eagles are right now, which is very much in contention, and you have an obvious weakness in an area, and you have a chance to shore it up with a guy who's right now in his prime, a young player,
Yep.
I think you certainly got to go try.
It's almost a no-brainer. But up next, it's going to be a Sunday night showdown in New Orleans when the Cowboys visit the Saints, with Dallas finally getting his first loss of the season. We hope so. Ray, are you making our pick? We'll make our picks on Quick Slants when we return. Welcome back to Quick Slants. Time for a game of Take Your Pick, presented by Rothman Orthopedics at Jefferson Health. Ray, let's start with the Sunday night game. The 3-0 Cowboys going into New Orleans to face Teddy Bridgewater and the Saints. Do you think the Cowboys get their first loss of the season?
No, I know all the people in Philadelphia are hoping for that.
Me too, bro.
I know you're hoping for that.
Exactly.
I don't think it's going to happen. I really don't. I think that when you looked at the matchup here, Cowboys versus the Saints, the Cowboys have on their defense exactly the recipe to deal with Alvin Kamara, which is 2 fast linebackers.
Exactly.
Jalen Smith and Leighton Vander Esch are the 2 kinds of guys that they can stay with Kamara out of the backfield. And if they can do that, they can really limit that offense. Listen, last year, that was the formula that Dallas used to upset the Saints last year, and that was when they had Drew Brees. Now they don't have Drew Brees, so even though they're in the Dome where they're rarely underdogs, they're underdogs this Sunday for a reason. I like the Cowboys to get to 4-0.
Just like you said with those 2 linebackers, everything on that offense is run through Alvin Kamara, and at this point, I can't see him making headway against those 2 guys, Van Der Esch and Jalen Smith. They're pretty good, man. Well, sticking in the NFC East, the Giants can match the Eagles at 2-2 with a home win over the Redskins. Ray, do you think Daniel Jones and the Giants will get their win without injured Saquon Barkley?
Yeah, I think Daniel Jones gets to 2-0 here, and it's largely because there's nothing to like about the Redskins right now.
Right.
I mean, they have nothing working on offense. They have nothing working on defense. Do you realize that through 3 games they have only successfully converted 7 third downs in 3 games?
Are you kidding?
I mean, it seems almost impossible.
Right.
And they're the worst team in the league stopping people on 3rd down. So that's a combination. You can't beat anybody. Maybe you can beat Miami,
Right.
but that's about all. But I think the Giants get to 2-2 this week.
I really thought that defense was going to be a lot better than what they were, especially those stout guys up front. Their front 7 just as good, I thought, as anybody in the league, but they have performed up to ability. So, yeah, I think the Giants also get a win going into that.
I think the Skins peaked weak in the first half against the Eagles.
Right.
It's been all downhill since then.
Exactly. Well, finally, the only battle of 3-0 teams in Week 4, the Patriots at the Bills. New England hasn't owned the Buffalo Bills over the years. Ray, do you think Buffalo can pull off the upset over Buffalo?
The Bills are playing really well. I mean, they're playing really good, and they're playing at home, and that's going to be a lively house up there. But you look at the Bills' record: they've beaten the Giants, they've beaten the Jets, they've beaten the Bengals. This is stepping way up in class here, and I just don't think they're ready for it yet. I think it's going to be a tough game. I think we'll give them a game, but I think the Patriots are going to come out of there with a win.
Well, you know what? I'm really thinking that I might be swayed a little bit because that defense of Buffalo is really good, man. At this point, I think that they can finally get after Tom Terrific, get after them, and make him become human. I know that's going. A lot of teams have tried it, but I think Brady finally becomes human. So because of that, I think they have a shot. Look at their tight end. The way they run the ball on offense in Buffalo too, they can maintain.
Mm-hmm.
So I really think they're gonna be all right. Well, that's it for Quick Slants for this Friday. Ray Didinger and myself. Have a great weekend, everybody. Good night.